Hello, I'm going to talk to you today about aversive techniques and prohibited interventions. These are different techniques and activities that we do not allow at OPG because we would never want to restrict somebody's rights or cause them any harm. So prohibited interventions include abuse, neglect, exploitation, and mistreatment. Please refer to the abuse, neglect, exploitation, mistreatment training for more examples in each of those areas. Aversive techniques include contingent exercise, contingent noxious stimulation, corporal punishment, negative practice, overcorrection, seclusion, and visual or facial screening. Now we'll go over each one in depth and I'll try to give you good examples for each area. Contingent exercise. This is any required physical exercise after an unwanted behavior is observed. I used to work with someone whose mother wanted her to run on the treadmill for 20 minutes after she cursed or did something that mom didn't approve of. We don't ever require anybody to exercise or drop and give you 20 because we've witnessed in a behavior that we don't like. Contingent noxious stimulation. This is following the occurrence of an unwanted behavior. Someone is presented with an unpleasant sensory agent, sight, hearing, touch, smell, or taste. An example of this might be washing someone's mouth out with soap after they've said something that you don't approve of, or using hot sauce as a punishment when someone has cursed. These are considered contingent noxious stimulation and not allowable. Corporal punishment. This is inflicting pain when someone has done something that you don't approve of. So hitting, pinching, pulling hair, anything that would cause pain to another person, we do not allow. Negative practice. So this is the requirement of unwanted behavior after that unwanted behavior has been observed. So if somebody's diabetic and they're eating candy, and a punishment might be to have that person eat the whole bag of candy because they would obviously not feel well after that. Or if someone is caught smoking a cigarette, their mom might want them to smoke the whole pack of cigarettes as a punishment. We would never require someone to take part in that unpleasant behavior as a punishment for the behavior being seen. Overcorrection. So this is the repetition of inappropriate behavior after an inappropriate behavior has been seen. So I used to work with someone who walked with crutches, and she would at times hit her crutch on a door jamb, and her guardian didn't want her to damage the door jambs. So she would have her walk through the door jamb 10 or 20 times as a punishment after she had hit the door jamb. This is overcorrection. We don't ever want to prescribe a certain amount of trials to have someone practice based on them doing something that we don't want to see. So, because that's a punishment, it's not just practice for practicing. Seclusion. This is the involuntary placement of a person in a room or an area alone where exit is prohibited. An example of seclusion that one might not typically think of would be if someone is in a wheelchair and confined to that wheelchair and is not able to move from the area. Another example would be timeout when that's not time limited. Exclusionary timeout is only allowable if Human Rights Committee has approved that intervention. Visual or facial screening. This is when a cloth is placed over the face and eyes of a person to block the view of the environment. One might think that this would be something to do when someone is overstimulated by the environment around them. Some professionals believe that this is a way to limit that sensory input so that someone can focus on one of their senses. This is a restriction and obviously not allowed. We've also seen this happen when someone's watching inappropriate TV or something that the DSP doesn't want them to be watching, and they might cover their face so that where they don't see that scene. Mechanical restraints. Only a physician or dentist may order and perform the use of mechanical restraint. No OPG staff member can perform this technique. This would just be holding somebody down with another item like a belt or tying somebody to a chair. This would obviously not be allowed. Floor restraints. Floor restraints are prohibited, including prone restraint, as well as any restraint that is used for convenience or discipline. A prone restraint is when someone's face and stomach are to the ground, and this is a very dangerous restraint to use. OPG, we do not restrict people's rights or hold them down, and prone restraints are especially dangerous. This concludes the aversive techniques and prohibited interventions training. If you have questions about these restricted interventions, please ask your supervisor or contact OPG's main office.